Great stuff. Hello there.
Hello.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Would you just introduce yourself and your name and what you're doing today?
Sure. So I'm Francine and I'm in Republic Edinburgh.
My name's Adrian. I'm from Republic Edinburgh as well.
Right, well, great to meet you both. Can you just tell me what your group is doing today and why you're out on this Sunday?
So we're campaigning for basically to turn the UK into a republic. We're protesting against the monarchy. We don't believe that a modern democracy requires a monarchy. We think that we should rather have an elected head of state rather than an unelected set of people that we have no relationship to. They don't really stand for us. We are termed subjects and we're not citizens. And I think that doesn't fit with a modern democracy in the 21st century. With that,
Yeah, so there's also a protest happening or a rally happening in London today. There's one happening in Cardiff as well today. And it's all about saying that, as Adrian said, we're a modern country, we should be a modern democracy. An elected head of state is a part of that, so it's showing what's possible for the future. It's saying we want our voices to be heard. And we know that in Scotland, that it's a growing feeling. A lot of people support having an elected head of state, and Republic Edinburgh has given them a platform to show that. We're coming out today so that people can show their support for an elected head of state. And we're not staying in and keeping quiet about it because, we've got to make our point. We've got to be heard to make some change.
and to your to the second part of your question about why today. Well, today is roughly the anniversary of the coronation of Charles.
Okay.
It was a year ago today, roughly. I think it was.
Yeah, so it was the 6th. So
It's the 6th,
yeah.
so we're like a day before. So that's why we're out particularly today, because it's a year since the coronation of Charles.
Right, okay. So you said that you would want an elected head of state. What would that look like?
So we can choose what that looks like because it's our country. We can decide what our democracy looks like, and we can do that as a collective. It doesn't have to be one person that decides that. We get to decide as a collective and as a country what's best for our democracy. For my own, in my own opinion, I believe that it actually doesn't. It's not going to look that much different. We'll still have a parliament. We'll still have a prime minister. We'll still elect our MPs and, in the case of Holyrood, our MSPs. But we'll have a layer that sits above that. Who will have responsibility for saying these are our procedures. This is how we work. If our prime minister or our parliament aren't following those rules, we've seen that does not always happen. We've seen it very recently. That the Prime Minister sometimes has too much power or bypasses Parliament. We've got an elected head of state that can say, well, actually, you're not following the rules here. You need to be kept in check. And provide a check and a balance to our Parliament, and an effective one, which is crucial.
I think it's absolutely right, and I think that Francine's T-shirt says that everything is not my king, because we didn't have any choice in that matter. It's all done through bloodlines, hereditary privilege, and people say, "Oh, it's been like that. It's been like forever. Why change it?" It's because it doesn't fit with a modern society. It doesn't fit that you end up with this established hierarchy of power, which is unaccountable, is very secretive, has privilege around interfering with laws that are supposed to be for us, and they were able to have a royal privilege that they can exempt themselves from some of these things. That's not fair. That's not equal. That's not representative. And so we're just saying we don't believe the institution of the monarchy is representative. And as Francine says, what would be the alternative? Well, that should be up to us. There's all sorts of different things that we could probably consider. Somebody would be like, oh, we could have an elected president, or we can have something else, call it something completely different. But it's something that's accountable then to the people and has oversight and acts in the people's behalf, not for their vested interests and their power and their privilege.
So it's about democracy, it's about equality, it's about meritocracy as well, would you say?
Of course, yeah. Meritocracy is a big part of it. Because, we deserve to have the people that we elect, but we also deserve to be able to say, well, we think that's the best person for that job, and they've earned the right to have that job, which you can't say at the moment about Charles or, William will come next. You can't say that about them.
Or
they're not necessarily the best people for the job. They've certainly not earned it.
And particularly if you look at Edinburgh in particular, we were how would you describe it? We were appointed or just given a new Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, and it was just more of a case of like, here they are, and we're like going, well, who are they? And who asked us? Nobody asked us. So we were just given that title of our like, and a title which sits above the people of Edinburgh. We're like going, not our Duke, not our Duchess, not our King, not our Crown. They don't represent us. So we want something which is transparent and, more importantly, is accountable to the people and to kind of our democracy.
So yeah, accountability and something that's not imposed upon you, rather something that we select as a people.
But also has something that's elected, but it's elected on a fixed term as well. So it's held to account. We measure their performance based through elections, and then they can get elected and then unelected, and then it can be changed. Right now, we don't have the choice to change anything. It's like there you go.
I mean, we effectively know who our head of state. If nothing changes, we know who our head of state is going to be for the next 70 or 80 years.
Yeah.
And that's frankly ridiculous. Like, that is just absurd. This is not personal. This is not a character assassination of the Windsors. It's absolutely not. But there's nothing to say that those people are going to be good or decent or the people that you want as a head of state. We know that in the past we've had a literal supporter of a Nazi party as a king for a very brief period of time before he abdicated. But that happened. And who's to say what could happen in 100, 150, 200 years if we don't change things? There's some really bad people there. And that's not acceptable.
Prince Andrew as well wasn't the best example of
Prince Andrew, like, there's a lot of issues there. Like, I feel like he should be accountable. He should stand up in court and have his day in court, and so should his victims, or his alleged victims, if you want to say that. But where's that accountability? It just doesn't exist. That could, and a different path had been taken. He could have been our king, our leader, our head of state.
And still could.
Yeah. So
if something horrible and tragic can happen, Prince Andrew could still be king. That's crazy for somebody that's had all these allegations placed against them, and it's all just been swept under the carpet a little bit. The fact that, but the very fact of the matter that if something kind of horrible and tragic can happen, you can still have King Andrew. That just blows my mind. It's crazy.
Yeah. And for the people of York, of course, and the people of Inverness, that's their duke. Like, again, he's imposed on that city without anybody asking if they want him to be a duke of that city.
Sure.
And without any mechanism to remove him as duke from that city. Like, it's not really on. It's not fair.
And I think that's the big point. Really, is it's more a case of like, yeah, we understand that people get elected, and sometimes people don't do don't do good things or don't perform particularly well. But we have mechanisms through a democracy to be able to remove those people from power, to hold them to account, to remove them from their positions. Right now, we have no choice. We have no choice at all, and that's what we're saying. It's like we want choice to choose the people that represent us from the top all the way through to the bottom. That's it.
How would you remove a monarchy? As you said, it's such an ingrained part of a society and culture. Like, how would that happen? What would happen to Buckingham Palace and the Holyrood Palace and stuff behind us?
So they would remain, the property of the state already, and they would remain the property of the state. I would imagine that a lot of those palaces would be opened up to tourists, and they would actually bring in revenue instead of eating up revenue. They would actually benefit the country. So I think that would be a positive thing. In terms of how you remove the monarchy, I think that needs to be part of a wider discussion. They'll still exist as people. I'm not suggesting that that anything happens to them or their own child. They'll still exist as people. They'd simply become private citizens. The wealth that they could through their positions they would keep, and they could be private citizens, and then we would hold an election for our head of state.
I mean, you look at France as an example, who had a monarchy and then they got rid of them, but yet some of their royal institutions or their kind of buildings, like the Palace of Versailles, is a huge tourist attraction, generates a huge amount of revenue for the French state. So it doesn't diminish history. It doesn't negate the history. doesn't negate the fact that we've had kings and queens for hundreds of years, and there's a lot of history that goes in. That's just true. We don't want to erase that. What we want to say is we want to say, look, we acknowledge it, but we want to change it. That's it, and we want to change it through democratic means. We want to build enough support that then it tips the balance, and we can have a referendum which says that no, as a people, as a set of people in the United Kingdom, we would like to see the end of the monarchy. And in a democratic country, that should be within our right.
Yeah. Fair play. It's great to see people exercising their democratic right of freedom of speech, and I suppose is it a protest? Would you say it's a protest?
I would say it's a
demonstration?
protest, but it's also a demonstration of what comes next. It's a demonstration saying, like, actually we're here, and what comes next is a republic. That's where we're headed.
And we're just trying to start the conversation. Be out here is like, I'm just going to go. We got the inflatable dinosaur that Fraser was being a hero World Wars of the day, and it's been sweating his arse off. But it's by catching people's eyes and starting the conversation and then because if we don't ask the question, we don't start the conversation.
Yeah,
and that's all we're trying to do.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Thank you.
Cheers.